You're listening to the Vocabbett podcast, where I help students improve their vocabulary for the SAT, ACT, and life itself using my unique and research-backed story-based method. On this podcast, I'm sharing the best tips and tricks for a more enriched vocabulary and pain-free test day. Hello, and welcome to episode 32 of the Vocabbett podcast. I'm Erica Abbott, a former English and history teacher, the author of the young adult novel Ahead of Her Time, and the founder of the eponymously named vocabulary company, Vocabbett. So in the last episode of the podcast, I talked about how school plans are starting to be announced for next year, and things are not really going back to normal. I floated the idea of doing some kind of a Vocabbett Academy as a third option, where I create full-length courses that are designed for this time. They're really hands-on and fun, and they're not just a classroom that's been put on Zoom. I created a survey to gauge the level of interest. I also encouraged people to reach out to me, and I thought you might be interested to know what people are thinking. So, big disclaimer here, this is a survey of the people that I spoke to, that I was able to reach, people in the Vocabbett audience. This is not a Pew survey where I cold called half the country and interrupted their dinner. It's a pretty small sample size and should not be construed as representing the entire country. But here's the overwhelming sentiment within the Vocabbett audience. It is, if a physical school is open, come HE double hockey sticks or high water, that's where people want to be. And that goes for both students and parents. Kids are anxious to see their friends, and parents are anxious to get their kids out of the house. So there really isn't a need for full-length replacement courses right now because people in my audience, at least, have already largely decided that they're going to stay with their existing school, drawbacks notwithstanding. But here's a big caveat. Many schools are only admitting students in person 2 to 3 days a week, which means about half the week is still virtual. There's also a big concern that even if schools say right now that they'll be open, that they won't be allowed to come September or whenever your school opens, or that they will be open for a little bit, but they'll end up shutting down again. There's a lot of concern about the unpredictability, and not just for the reasons I mentioned before. We saw how this all worked in the spring, how taking a course that is designed to be in person and putting it on Zoom wasn't ideal for everyone. Hopefully, it will be better in the fall, but the sentiment among parents in particular was that there's a real trade-off happening. I'm sending my kids to school for their sanity and mine, but kind of at the expense of their education. One parent said, and I quote, "My kids are going to be idiots after this." So what's needed right now, at least in this community, doesn't seem to be full-length courses because people have pretty universally decided to roll the dice on their current school. What people asked for instead are fun, supplementary things they can do and use to fill the time and make sure that they're coming out of this weird time in a good place. So I'm really glad I asked. I have every intention of continuing to create fun, vocabulary-boosting stories and challenges and everything else. Vocabbett members, as always, will be the first to get everything. If you're not yet a member, you can sign up at vocabbett.com. That's VOC and then Abbott like my last name, ABBETT. And the price on the membership will be going up at the end of the summer, but you get locked in at the rate at which you signed up. This is the lowest price the membership will ever be. So if you think you'll be utilizing Vocabbett resources this coming year, I would definitely sign up now. I wish you all the luck in the world as you figure out your plans for next year, and just know that I'm here to help ease the burden as much as I can. All right, I will see you guys on Thursday.